WannaCry, May 2017. Computers around the world start locking themselves. Hospitals, banks, railways, governments. In 72 hours, more than 200,000 machines across 150 countries are frozen with the same message. Pay in Bitcoin or lose everything. This was WannaCry, and here's the part that makes it terrifying. Nobody clicked anything, no bad email, no suspicious download. The malware used a secret Windows exploit called Eternal Blue, a tool originally built by the National Security Agency. Once WannaCry touches a single computer inside a network, it automatically spread to every other machine connected to it. It didn't need a victim, it just moved, which is how the National Health Service got hit so hard. 19,000 patient appointments cancelled, doctors locked out of medical records, and hospital corridors full of people who couldn't be treated because the computers simply said, access denied. Now here's where the story turns from terrifying to absurd. A 22-year-old security researcher in the UK, Marcus Hutchins, is analysing the malware from his bedroom. He notices something strange in the code. Before encrypting a machine, WannaCry checks whether a very specific, nonsensical web domain exists. If the site is online, the malware stops. No one knows why it's there. Maybe a test, maybe a mistake, maybe unfinished code. Hutchins does the simplest thing possible. He buys the domain for $10.69, and within hours, the global infection rate flatlines. A worldwide cyber attack, accidentally shut down because a random guy bought a cheap website. That kill switch is the only reason WannaCry didn't become far worse. Investigators later attributed the attack to North Korea, and many experts believe the malware was released before it was fully completed, which means the world got saved by a bug. But the hackers were paying attention, and the next attack would fix that mistake. Petya, June 2017. Companies open their computers in the morning, and nothing boots. Not frozen, just dead. And on the screen, the same message as WannaCry. Pay Bitcoin, get your files back. Except this time, that was a lie. NotPetya looked like ransomware, but it just wasn't. So, the way this worked is it again used the Eternal Blue Windows exploit. But this time the infection didn't start from emails or random machines. It started from a routine software update to a Ukrainian accounting program called MEDoc that thousands of companies trusted and installed automatically. Simply put, businesses infected themselves the moment they clicked Update. However, once NotPetya got inside, it didn't encrypt files. It overwrote the master boot record, the part of the hard drive that tells a computer how to start at all, which means the machine wasn't locked, it was erased. This is why Maersk lost $300 million and had to rebuild 45,000 computers and 4,000 servers across 130 countries in 10 days. FedEx lost $400 million through its TNT division. Merck lost $870 million. Governments across the European Union, the UK, and the US formally blamed Russia. But if you thought paying did anything, it didn't. There was never any way to get the data back. The ransom note was just a camouflage for what was actually a cyber weapon that caused over $10 billion in damage, without anyone ever having a chance to recover. WannaCry and NotPetya showed what ransomware could do to infrastructure, but someone was watching, and they saw a much simpler opportunity. Colonial Pipeline, May 2021. The largest fuel pipeline in the United States suddenly stops. 45% of the East Coast's fuel supply grinds to a halt. Not because of a bomb, not because of a fire, but because a hacker got a password. One leaked VPN password. One account with no multi-factor authentication. That's all it took for a criminal hacking group called DarkSide to seize control of the largest fuel pipeline in the US, 5,500 miles from Texas to New York. But here's how they did it. Once inside, they encrypted the administrative systems, the IT backbone that schedules deliveries, bills customers, and monitors operations. The pipeline couldn't run safely, so the company shut everything down for 6 days. Gas stations ran dry, prices spiked, panic buying spread across 17 states, people hoarded fuel in plastic bags. The US Consumer Product Safety Commission even had to warn the public. CEO Joseph Blount authorized a $4.4 million Bitcoin payment within hours to regain access. However, the FBI later recovered $2.3 million of that ransom by seizing the DarkSide wallet, showing for the first time that a ransomware payment isn't always gone forever. REvil JBS, June 2021. The world's largest meat processor suddenly goes dark. Not one plant, not one country. All 9 beef processing facilities in the US grind to a halt. Australian operations also freeze. This was REvil. A Russian cybercriminal group unleashed ransomware that spread silently through JBS's networks. Employees couldn't access payroll, production systems, or supply chain software. Computers displayed nothing but encrypted files and a ransom demand. REvil enters via phishing emails, stolen credentials, or vulnerable remote access tools. Once inside, it encrypts every critical file. And at the same time, it siphons sensitive data, threatening to leak company secrets if the ransom isn't paid. The attack hits operations and reputation at the same time, leaving JBS no choice but to negotiate. Within 11 days, JBS paid $11 million in Bitcoin. But they had no way to know if encrypted data or stolen files were fully recovered, and every dollar likely funded future attacks. Costa Rica, April 2022. A government wakes up and cannot collect taxes. Costa Rica's Ministry of Finance is locked, then Customs, then healthcare payroll. Within days, 27 government institutions are frozen by Conti ransomware. This wasn't a website defacement. Conti got in through stolen credentials and phishing, then moved laterally across government networks. It encrypted servers and exfiltrated data at the same time. Systems didn't just stop working, the country's digital backbone collapsed. Importers couldn't clear goods, hospitals couldn't pay staff, tax platforms were dead. On his second day in office, President Rodrigo Chavez declared a national emergency, the first ever caused purely by ransomware. Conti demanded $20 million. Costa Rica refused, so Conti dumped 670 gigabytes of stolen government data online and called for citizens to pressure their own government to pay. Instead, the US placed $15 million bounties on Conti leaders. Months later, after internal leaks from a Ukrainian member, Conti's operation imploded. Every attack so far had one thing in common. Someone somewhere made a mistake, clicked something, trusted something. But the next attack didn't need any of that. Royal Mail LockBit, January 2023. The UK can send mail domestically, but nothing can leave the country. Royal Mail's international shipping system is encrypted by LockBit. LockBit entered through compromised credentials and vulnerable remote services, then deployed ransomware across the network that handled customs documentation and international dispatch. Parcels stacked up, export businesses froze. Weeks passed with zero outbound international mail. LockBit demanded $80 million. Royal Mail refused. So LockBit published 44 gigabytes of stolen internal data, employee files, operational documents, and logistics data. But what turned this into a global case study was the leak. LockBit released the full ransom negotiation chat. Royal Mail's team called the demand absurd. LockBit's negotiator grew hostile, threatening and taunting in real time. The world watched a ransomware negotiation unfold like a courtroom transcript. LockBit showed the world how brazen these groups had become. But the most sophisticated attack of all didn't come from a criminal group breaking in. It came from a flaw that was already there. Move it. Clop. May 2023. No phishing email. No stolen password. No employee mistake. Just one vulnerability in trusted software. Move it. Clop discovered an unpatched SQL injection flaw before anyone else knew it existed. By typing specially crafted commands into a normal web form, they made Move it hand over entire databases. No login required. Before the flaw was public, Clop had already copied data from hundreds of organizations. Then they waited. Weeks later, they began naming victims and leaking data. 2,700 organizations, 93 million people. Victims included the BBC, British Airways, Shell, US government agencies, and universities worldwide. Every victim shared one thing. They all trusted the same third-party software. No one clicked a bad link. No one made a mistake. The shared dependency was the attack surface. The moment the vulnerability was found, everyone using MoveIt was already breached.